This is just one of a handful of crazy games that Aditi has been on the sidelines for. Aditi, I think I saw in your tweet, 7 of your 9 games between yourself and Sparrow and Adam have come down to the final drive. I mean, what is it about you guys this year and experiencing all of this chaos? I mean, Aditi, weeks 1 through 9, oh my gosh.
I think all but one of them are a one-score game, in fact. Yes, the football gods have been amazing to us, Haley, let me tell you. But it's certainly, you need to be prepared for everything, and it's why I run. This last weekend, I was on the Bears sideline, ready to interview Kyle Monangai. Then all of a sudden, Joe Flacco led we're going back to the Raiders-Bears game. This was unbelievable right here. Okay, the Jets-Bengals game, the Jets completely changed in front of our eyes as this game kept going. Poor Joe Flacco. I mean, could he possibly play any better? And yet
Right?
he couldn't get anybody to tackle for him. And then what I was saying about this past weekend is I'm on the Bears sideline ready to interview Kyle Monangai. All of a sudden, Joe Flacco is engineering 2 touchdown drives in basically a minute. So I'm racing to the other side to get ready to talk to Joe Flacco. And then all of a sudden, you saw that touchdown. I'm racing back to the other side and screaming, no, give me Caleb and Colston now. So it's part of the fun. And it's why I need to make sure that I get my running in during the week.
You know, I have hung out with you on a couple of sideline games to this point. I know how much you move, and so I can imagine that switch from one side to the other. I think Brianna has a video of us running together as well. So it has been chaos for you. I do want to stay in that game, though. Caleb Williams just really coming alive this year in his sophomore year. He caught a pass. He threw, I believe, 3 passes as well. He's finally starting to get command of this offense. What has been your biggest takeaway of Caleb this season and how much he's been able to grow?
Threw a lot of passes, in fact, and yes, did catch passes and was tremendous in a lot of ways. And I think that the big thing with Caleb Williams that maybe is not necessarily getting noticed because it's not in the box score is how much he truly has grown. Head coach Ben Johnson was very clear with us. The volume of plays that he expects his quarterback to understand to have in any given week is tremendous. And he said that Caleb Williams never has an issue with it. He is so proud of the way that he can spit out plays. He's talked to us extensively last week about the big picture perspective, how far Caleb Williams has come from the spring, even to the struggles in training camp, to what he is doing now, how cleanly he runs the operation, that there are not delays of games, things like that. Again, the play calling. And it's interesting because a week ago, Caleb Williams was getting a bit of friction or questioning, so much so that Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams both talked to us about it. Ben Johnson said he's never seen anything like it. A quarterback who is so committed to being great, who works so diligently, yet being so doubted. Caleb Williams very openly said to us that it kind of does get to him a little bit. And he's trying to teach himself to be a little bit more like LeBron James or Michael Jordan and use the doubts to fuel him. And it's an interesting insight because, as Caleb said, in the city of Chicago, nothing matters more than the Chicago Bears. And he so desperately wants to bring this Bears organization to a spot where the fans are so proud. It matters to him so much. And he also knows that if he can do that as the quarterback, the word he used is, that's how you become legendary. So no matter what the noise is around him, he's certainly working towards it. And we're seeing things both inside and outside the box score that have his head coach saying he's really working towards that. And the arrow is absolutely pointing up.
It's interesting, too, even when you think about the preseason and those lofty goals that him and Ben Johnson set for themselves at the beginning of the season, the 4,000 passing yards and all the touchdowns. So it's nice to see him kind of growing into that and working towards that. I do want to talk about another quarterback in Joe Flacco. This has just been, 3 years at this point of just Joe Flacco magic. Obviously, the Bengals do the trade with the Browns, earlier than what we saw with the trade deadline yesterday. It was a chaotic deadline yesterday. How much, I guess, did the Bengals benefit from getting that deal done early? I mean, are we sleeping on Joe Flacco in that trade here?
I mean, first of all, the way that Joe Flacco has been playing is absolutely stupefyingly, mind-boggling, amazing. Getting to be on the sideline for the last 2 weeks, I will say on a personal level, I feel heartbroken for Flacco and that offense. I don't know what more they could possibly be doing. They are so crisp. They are using their playmakers coming into this game. Bears defensive coordinator Dennis Allen said you need to cover Jamar Chase, and then their Jamar Chase is again with 100 yards and T. Higgins with several circus catches. It's an exciting offense to watch, the way the line is playing, the way Chase Brown is running, but then that defense. I mean, can't get a stop with 54 seconds to play, can't seem to make a tackle, is turning Joe Flacco's magic into a footnote as opposed to what should be the story of the NFL right now at the age of 40, this past weekend, PS, with that sprained AC joint in his shoulder. He's playing as well as he ever has. I'm all over the place with this, Haley, so this is definitely not a clip we want to cut and put on social. I'm not making sense here. But the point is that Joe Flacco is playing about as well as anybody possibly can. This offense is playing as well as it can. Joe Flacco, the last few years, has been in situations where, be it with the Jets, who had a first-round pick quarterback to play in Zach Wilson, be it with the Colts, who had a first-round pick quarterback to play in Anthony Richardson, wasn't necessarily getting an opportunity, has always believed in himself, though, clearly is showing why he believed in himself. And you certainly hope that that Bengals defense can figure out how to tackle and maybe let Joe Flacco enjoy some of the fruits of what he has been able to put on the field. And I'll give you one more thing. You mentioned the trade with the Browns, and of course, there was a lot of chatter after that trade. We know Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin had some questions about that trade and wondered why the Browns would trade a quarterback within the division. But I'll tell you, I talked to both Joe Flacco and Browns GM Andrew Berry about this, and I talked to Bengals GM Duke Tobin. Duke Tobin said, you don't know if something's crazy until you try. So he picked up the phone, not necessarily expecting that Andrew Berry would say yes. Andrew Berry gets this phone call from Duke Tobin, and he realizes that the Bengals would want to start Joe Flacco. And he knew that Joe Flacco had left his 5 kids and his wife home in New Jersey for the opportunity to start, which the Browns were no longer giving him. So Andrew Berry has so much respect for Joe Flacco. He went to Flacco and he said, the Bengals have called. This is what they want. I'm not going to trade you if you don't want to go. But if this is something that you want to do, then I am willing to do this. And Flacco talked to his wife. He said, heck yeah, let's go. I do want to start. And so that's why Andrew Berry did it. It wasn't necessarily, hey, we're just moving on. It was, I'm going to try to do right by a player who did so much for us a few years ago, and obviously in these few months that he was with them.
It just shows you the level of respect. I'm sorry, I cut you off there, but it just...
No, you're right.
It shows the level of respect. Joe has been such a fun story. I believe our research team letting us know that he is now the oldest player at 40 years old to throw the amount of yards that he did, 470 passing yards, 4 touchdowns in that game. Let's hope that defense hears the message and can step up to the plate. Aditi, I got one more for you because I can't let you leave without talking about the Jets and their process yesterday at the deadline. Their loss is our gain in Dallas. I'm excited to welcome Quinnen Williams to America's team. But if we talk about the Jets, what do you anticipate this team looking like with all this draft capital?
I don't know, Haley. That might have been a fleecing of the Cowboys right there. Look, we had the Jets a week ago for their first win. We saw Justin Fields sort of come alive during that game. We saw what that could do potentially, or what Aaron Glenn is hoping that can do for his Jets team. We have them again this weekend. Aaron Glenn said it's all about building the foundation. You're not building a team on stilts. You're trying to build a team with brick and mortar. And he very openly said sometimes that's 2 steps backwards for every 1 step forward. This is clearly a team that needs new players, needs more talent, needs to build depth, needs to get players in the image of Aaron Glenn and this front office. And so they are stockpiling picks to be able to do that. That doesn't mean that the players that are on this roster are giving up on this season. Every player knows that he's putting something on tape, whether it's for this Jets team or it's for another team next year. Justin Fields right now, he's trying to prove that he is still a starter in the National Football League, whether it is for the Jets next year or for somebody else. Garrett Wilson, it's really important to him to continue to show he's one of the most productive, talented receivers out there. Breece Hall at running back. I can go on and on and on. So This doesn't mean that the players are giving up in any way at all, but this is indeed an organization that is thinking about the long game and not just winning right now.
It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But to your point, a lot of football still left to be played in 2025. Aditi, always so good catching up with you. I can't wait to watch you running down the sidelines and whatever chaos you got cooking up this weekend. Want to give you one final look at the schedule coming up on CBS this weekend. The Bucs back in action after the bye. They're going to be taking on the Patriots in that 1 o'clock window. And then at 4:05, very interesting, Seahawks, Cardinals, both teams looking a little different post-trade deadline, more so the Seahawks. But that one, 4:05 Eastern on CBS.
Welcome back, Cowboys Nation. This is Cowboys Nation Report. Your home for everything silver and blue. Your front line for analysis, emotion, hype, and the real talk. Today we're diving deep into a story that blends frustration, expectation, challenge, and opportunity. We're talking about trades, criticism, culture shifts, and ultimately hope for the Dallas Cowboys. Strap in because we're not just scratching the surface, we're digging in. Here's the scenario. The Cowboys have stumbled. A record of 3-5-1, it stings. When you're used to seeing the star helmet under bright lights with high expectations, that kind of mark demands answers. You lose at home to a team like the Arizona Cardinals, one the Cowboys should handle. You're forced to face some brutal truths. Analysts have pointed this out. Dallas's defense is giving up 30.8 points per game and almost 397.4 yards per game, both among the worst in the league. So what does the front office do? What does the locker room do? What does the fan base do? They make moves. They seek solutions. The Cowboys answered with 2 big trades, one for DT Quinnen Williams from the Jets and another for LB Logan Wilson from the Bengals. That's the action part. But we've also seen criticism. Former NFL standout Chad Johnson, known for calling it like he sees it, publicly challenged the value of those deals. He said the moves were nothing but decoration, that they were about headlines, not necessarily about meaningful change. Ouch. That kind of critique cuts, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. But here's where we pivot. As Cowboys Nation, this is our moment. Not for despair, but for belief. Because yes, the moves are bold. Yes, they carry risk. And yes, many will say they're too late for this season. But what matters is how you respond. What matters is how you channel the frustration, the doubt, the why hasn't this happened before, and turn it into fuel. Let's break it down. First, the trades. Quinnen Williams, top-tier interior defensive tackle, Pro Bowler, disruptor. He arrives in Dallas and immediately shifts the conversation from "we're trying" to "we're serious." Logan Wilson, veteran linebacker with coverage ability, leadership potential. These picks aren't band-aids. They're statements. They say, we'll not just rely on our offense. We demand more from our defense. We demand consistency. We demand identity. Second, the culture. Johnson's call for QB Dak Prescott to convene an offensive players-only meeting might resonate. He suggested if the defense can't bail the team out, the offense must lock in. That's less about blame, more about accountability. And accountability is essential. If you're wearing the star, you represent standards. The Cowboys don't get to hide behind names. They answer to expectations. Third, the opportunity. The record says 3-5-1, yes, but teams that believe can still flip the script. Dallas did something similar in 2018. They were in the middle of the pack, made a trade, and launched a streak. The environment is different, the pieces are different, but the principle remains. When you hit your groove, momentum becomes real. What the imagery of these trades gives is hope. The uniform, change of mindset, the chance for this season to change from salvage to statement. Fourth, what Cowboys fans must see, internalize, and demand. 1. The offense must deliver more than flashes. The weapons are there, Prescott, wideouts, runners, the playbook. But if every week the defense leaks, the outcome falls on the offense's shoulders. 2, the defense must visibly improve. The numbers won't drop overnight, but foundational plays, sacks, turnovers, stops must show up. Williams and Wilson give you the chance at that. 3, coaching, execution, team buy-in. No single trade fixes all. The roster only becomes as good as the heartbeat of the locker room. 5th, why I remain optimistic and why you should too. Because Dallas didn't do nothing. They didn't hope, they acted. When a franchise with history and expectation makes these kinds of moves, it signals they believe they still can compete. And for a fan base, belief is everything. The star helmet has weight. The crowd, the city, the brand, the legacy, they all demand more. We're not starting over, we're refining. We're not rebuilding, we're recalibrating. And with the offseason ahead, with draft capital, with coaches, with history behind us and expectation in front, this feels like a turning point. Now, I want to hear from you. Yes, you in the star jersey, you screaming in the living room, you checking your watch in the late quarter. What do you think about these moves? Do you believe Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson can alter the trajectory of the Cowboys this season and beyond? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're backing this franchise to rise. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Cowboys Nation Report because we're riding this wave together, tracking every development, celebrating every win, watching every plank get laid in this next chapter. In the end, the Cowboys aren't just looking to sneak back into relevance. They're looking to reclaim the promise, reignite the pride, and build a team you feel confident wearing the star for. The path might be tough, the road might be uneven, but the direction is clear. And from where I sit, from where you sit, I believe. Go Cowboys! Thank you for being part of the journey. Comment, like, subscribe, and together, let's ride.